The rain was falling outside when a trembling voice echoed from the other room, "Mom, it hurts." At first, she didn't take it seriously, just another small complaint, she thought. But as she stepped closer, something felt terribly wrong. The moment she opened that door, her knees gave out and her world fell apart. Before we dive in, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? In the middle of a bright, bustling Thursday afternoon, the hum of office life surrounded Rebecca. Her laptop chimed with incoming emails, phones buzzed with reminders, and the clock seemed to tick faster than usual. Rebecca was a woman of precision, a successful project manager who had mastered the art of multitasking. But her mind, despite the polished exterior, was only half in the meeting in front of her. The other half drifted to her home, the place she had been neglecting more than she realized. Then, the unexpected happened. A sharp, trembling voice pierced through her day as her phone rang. "Mom, it hurts," came the weak whisper of her 7-year-old son, Ethan. Her hand froze over the keyboard. The words were so simple, yet they carried a weight that shook her to her core. She stared at the screen, disbelief and panic mingling in her chest. Without a second thought, she grabbed her coat and dashed into the rain-soaked streets of Chicago. The sky was gray, droplets of rain pelting down in rhythmic urgency, mirroring the pounding of her heart. Her mind raced. Was it a serious injury? Could it be something worse? Every red light felt like an eternity as she drove faster than usual, the city blurring past her tear-filled eyes. When she arrived home, the scene that awaited her was a silent storm. The house that had always seemed like a safe, warm haven now felt fragile, like a glass ornament teetering on the edge. In the kitchen, amidst scattered cereal bowls and a toppled chair, Ethan clutched his side, his face pale and contorted with pain. Beside him, his older sister Emma hovered nervously, trying to soothe him with quiet words and shaky hands. Rebecca dropped to her knees beside Ethan, her heart breaking as she took in every small detail: the way his tiny fingers clenched his shirt, the slight quiver in his lips, the tears threatening to spill. The realization hit her like a thunderbolt. She had been so absorbed in deadlines and meetings that she hadn't noticed the silent struggles her children were enduring. The guilt weighed heavier than any workload she had ever carried. The sound of approaching sirens brought a mix of relief and urgency. Paramedics arrived swiftly, assessing Ethan with professional efficiency. Fatigue and stress were evident, but thankfully, there was no life-threatening injury. Still, the incident left a deep imprint on Rebecca's mind. That evening, she watched them through the lens of a security camera, silently observing the resilience of her children. Emma lifted Ethan with careful strength, prepared his meals, and tucked him in when he stumbled. Each action, each small gesture, spoke volumes about their courage and their need for care. Rebecca sat quietly in the living room, the rain still drumming against the windows, reflecting on the moment she had missed. For the first time, she truly saw them not just as her children, but as the small humans navigating burdens she hadn't realized existed. That night, as the house settled into silence, a single thought burned in her mind. Nothing, no promotion, no email. No deal was worth missing this life. She resolved, then and there, to change. The storm outside began to ease, but inside Rebecca, a transformation had already begun. This frightening call, these simple words of pain from her child, had cracked open a new understanding of what mattered most. For the first time, she would truly be present, not just in body, but in heart and attention, for the little lives depending on her. The hospital room was quiet, except for the faint hum of machines and the rhythmic sound of Ethan's breathing. Rebecca sat beside the bed, her hands folded together, staring at her son's small frame wrapped in a white blanket. The fluorescent lights above seemed too bright, too harsh for a moment so fragile. Outside the window, the rain had stopped, leaving streaks of water sliding down the glass like tears that refused to fall. Ethan stirred, slightly, whispering, "Mom, are you here?" The words were soft, but they struck deep. Rebecca leaned closer, brushing his hair back. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm not going anywhere." Her voice trembled, half relief, half guilt. The doctor entered with a clipboard in hand, offering a reassuring smile. "He's going to be fine. The pain was caused by exhaustion, dehydration, and maybe a little stress. He just needs rest." "Stress?" Rebecca repeated, confusion clouding her tone. "He's only 7. The doctor gave a gentle nod. "Children absorb more than we think. When they sense tension or neglect, their little bodies react in quiet ways. Sometimes pain isn't just physical, it's emotional too. Those words lingered long after the doctor left. Rebecca looked at Ethan, who had already drifted back into sleep, and then at Emma sitting in the corner, clutching her backpack tightly. The girl looked older than her years, too responsible, too quiet. "You've been taking care of him, haven't you?" Rebecca asked softly. Emma hesitated before nodding. "When you're busy, he cries sometimes. I just try to help. I didn't want to bother you." The guilt pierced through Rebecca like a blade. All the time she had brushed off small calls for attention came rushing back. "The mom, can you play with us?" She had answered with "not now. I'm working." The missed school projects, the unshared dinners, the lonely nights her children had spent together while she stared at glowing spreadsheets. Later that night, Rebecca sat in the dim hospital cafeteria, nursing a cold cup of coffee. Around her, the soft murmurs of other families filled the space, each person carrying their own burden, their own regret. A mother beside her comforted a crying teenager. A father paced anxiously near the vending machine. Rebecca realized she had become the kind of parent she once promised she'd never be, present physically, absent emotionally. Her phone buzzed with a new message. Asterisk, client meeting rescheduled to tomorrow. Need your report by 8 a.m. Asterisk, she stared at the notification for a long moment, then locked the screen and slid the phone away. For the first time in years, she didn't care. The world could wait. Her children couldn't. The next morning, as Ethan was discharged, Rebecca noticed the way Emma carefully buttoned his jacket, the way she tied his shoelaces, and how she held his hand protectively as they walked to the car. It wasn't just love, it was responsibility that a child shouldn't have to bear. Watching them, Rebecca felt a lump form in her throat. At home, the atmosphere was different. The usual silence felt heavier. The toys were untouched, the living room spotless yet lifeless. She noticed drawings stuck on the fridge, crayon pictures of their family, but always with one detail. Rebecca's figure was drawn with a briefcase, standing far from the others. That single image shattered her. That night, as she tucked Ethan into bed, he opened his eyes and whispered, "Mom, when you're home, it doesn't hurt as much." His innocent words tore through every layer of her heart. Rebecca kissed his forehead, tears finally escaping. "Then I'll make sure I'm home, my love. I promise." After both children fell asleep, Rebecca sat by their door, just listening to their soft breathing, the quiet creak of the floor, the warmth that filled the house for the first time in a long while. She didn't know exactly how she would change her life, but she knew she must die in that stillness. She realized something profound. Pain is sometimes not a wound, but a message, a desperate whisper for love, attention, and presence. And this time, she would listen, because sometimes healing doesn't begin with medicine. It begins with coming home. The next morning began differently. For the first time in years, Rebecca woke up before the alarm. The sun had barely risen, its soft orange glow spilling through the curtains, painting the room in a quiet warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. The house was silent, not the kind of silence that comes from loneliness, but the peaceful kind that holds the promise of change. She walked to the kitchen, her bare feet brushing against the cool tiles. The counter that usually carried half-drunk coffee cups and unopened mail now became her battlefield of redemption. She opened the fridge, awkwardly searching for ingredients she hadn't touched in ages. Eggs, milk, maybe pancakes, she whispered to herself, smiling nervously. When the sweet aroma of breakfast filled the air, small footsteps echoed from the hallway. Ethan appeared first, rubbing his sleepy eyes. His hair was messy, his pajamas wrinkled, but his face lit up with surprise. "Mom, are you cooking?" he asked with a crooked grin. Rebecca laughed softly. "Try to. You might want to keep the fire extinguisher ready, though." Moments later, Emma joined them, school uniform slightly askew, looking half amused and half stunned. "Wow, Mom, I didn't even know you knew where the frying pan was." Rebecca turned, flipping a pancake that landed slightly off the plate. "Well, turns out moms can learn new tricks too," she said, smiling genuinely this time. For the first time in months, all three of them sat at the same table. No screens, no deadlines, no distractions, just laughter, clumsy cooking, and the feeling of belonging. Later that day, Rebecca walked the kids to school. The wind was cool, carrying the scent of rain and new beginnings. Ethan skipped beside her, backpack bouncing with each step. While Emma quietly hummed a tune, Rebecca noticed small things she had always missed: the way Emma shielded her brother from puddles, the way Ethan held his sister's hand at crossings. Each moment felt precious, like finding old photographs you never knew existed. Back home, Rebecca stood before her laptop, staring at the endless emails flooding in. For the first time, she didn't feel pressure, she felt choice. She typed a simple message to her boss. I'll be taking flexible hours for the next few months. My family needs me. Her hand trembled slightly as she hit send. But what she felt afterward wasn't fear, it was freedom. Days turned into weeks, and small changes began to blossom into something beautiful. Rebecca helped Ethan with his art projects, laughing when his paintbrush accidentally colored the table instead of the paper. She sat beside Emma during homework, listening instead of instructing. In the evenings, they watched movies together, their laughter filling the house where silence once ruled. One Saturday, while cleaning the attic, Rebecca stumbled upon an old photo album. Inside were pictures of her younger self, carefree, smiling, holding baby Emma in her arms. As she turned the pages, she whispered, "I lost her somewhere, but I'm bringing her back." It was a quiet vow, one born not of guilt, but of love renewed. The change didn't go unnoticed. Emma's teacher sent notes home. She seems happier, more focused. Ethan's smile returned, brighter and unforced. Even neighbors commented on how the children's laughter echoed down the street again. But the greatest change was within Rebecca herself. One evening, while washing dishes, she caught her reflection in the window. There were still lines of fatigue under her eyes, but her gaze was softer. Behind her, she saw Ethan building a tower of blocks while Emma read beside him. That reflection of her family alive, connected. Content was worth more than every achievement she had ever celebrated. As night fell, she sat with her children on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, reading bedtime stories. "Mom," Ethan whispered drowsily, "you don't work as much now." "Are we poor?" Rebecca chuckled, stroking his hair. "No, my love. We're richer than ever. We just found something money can't buy." In the gentle hush that followed, Rebecca realized that her life had shifted from chaos to calm, from guilt to gratitude. The home that once felt hollow now pulsed with laughter, warmth, and second chances. Change hadn't been easy, but it was worth every sleepless night, every awkward adjustment, every tear shed in regret, because sometimes it takes a moment of pain to remind us what joy truly feels like. And in those small, ordinary mornings filled with pancakes, laughter, and hugs, Rebecca finally found what she had been missing all along: peace. Months passed, and the rhythm of Rebecca's home changed completely. The house that had once echoed with hurried footsteps and unanswered calls now carried the soft, steady pulse of a family rediscovering itself. Morning sunlight spilled through the curtains as laughter replaced alarms, and the smell of coffee mixed with the sound of two children chattering about their dreams. Life wasn't perfect, but it was alive again. Rebecca often caught herself pausing mid-task, just to watch her children. Ethan, now healthier and brighter, loved drawing superheroes with wild imaginations. Emma, more confident than ever, was discovering her voice in school debates. Their growth wasn't measured by grades or trophies anymore, but by the light in their eyes. One evening, as they walked home from the park, Ethan ran ahead, turning back with his wide grin. "Mom, can we get ice cream? The really big one?" Rebecca laughed, breathless from jogging behind him. "Only if you promise not to make me carry you when your stomach hurts again." He giggled, nodding. Emma rolled her eyes playfully. "You'll still carry him, Mom. You always do." And she was right. Rebecca smiled, knowing her daughter's teasing carried truth. She would always carry them, no matter how old they grew. At night, when the kids were asleep, Rebecca often sat by the window with her journal. It wasn't a work planner anymore, it was a gratitude diary. Every page was filled with moments she didn't want to forget. Ethan's first soccer goal, Emma's laughter during a movie, a rainy morning where they all danced barefoot in the living room. These weren't just memories. They were proof that love had rebuilt their world. One day, while dropping the kids off at school, Rebecca met a young mother in the parking lot. The woman looked tired, her eyes hollowed by exhaustion. She mentioned struggling to balance her job and her two children. Rebecca saw herself from a year ago in that woman's trembling smile. After a long pause, she said softly, "Don't wait for something to break before you change. They don't need perfection, they just need you." The woman blinked, as if those words had struck somewhere deep. That night, Rebecca couldn't stop thinking about her. Within weeks, an idea began to take root. Rebecca used her business skills not to chase profits this time, but to build something meaningful. She started a local initiative called Hearts at Home, a community space where parents could share time, stories, and support. It was a simple mission to remind working parents that love couldn't be postponed. The response was overwhelming. Mothers, fathers, even grandparents joined in, each carrying their own story of guilt and rediscovery. Workshops, play sessions, family walks, all simple acts of connection that healed more than anyone expected. Rebecca would often watch from the sidelines, smiling quietly as children ran around and parents shared laughter that sounded like forgiveness. Ethan once asked her, "Mom, why do you help other families now?" She knelt beside him and said, "Because once upon a time, someone needed to help me, but it was your voice that saved us, Ethan. When you said, 'Mom, it hurts,' you helped me hear what really mattered." Years later, that phrase remained etched in her heart, not as a memory of pain, but as the spark that began everything. She kept a small framed note on her desk at home, written in Ethan's uneven handwriting. Asterisk, "It doesn't hurt anymore, Mom." Asterisk, every time she looked at it, she smiled, grateful that life had given her a second chance. On a quiet Sunday evening, Rebecca stood in the backyard, watching her children chase fireflies. The soft glow of the lights reflected in their eyes, and the air carried the faint hum of summer. Emma looked back at her mother, waving. "Come on, Mom, you're missing it." Rebecca laughed and joined them, barefoot on the grass, arms open to the night sky. For the first time, she wasn't chasing time, she was living inside it. And in that perfect, fleeting moment, she realized something profound. The greatest success wasn't in earning, achieving, or becoming. It was in asterisk being there. Asterisk the house, once silent and cold, now breathed with warmth, laughter, and love. And though the world outside still moved fast, Rebecca had finally learned the secret that changed her life forever. Sometimes the most important call you'll ever answer is not the one from your office, but the one whispered softly from your child, the one that says, "Mom, it hurts." Because inside that pain, if you listen closely, there's always a beginning, not an ending.